Something special is happening at Stamford Bridge. So today we'll be getting the breaking news on Chelsea recruitment team, find out their plan for the future, as well as updates from Fabrizio Romano on outgoings like Renato Veiga, Christopher Nkunku and Nicolas Jackson, and also discuss what's happening with Xavi Simons' deal. But before we get into all that, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. But if you have been rocking with me for a while, you know the drill. We're on the road to 10k subscribers. So like the video, drop your comment, subscribe to the channel, make sure you turn on the notification bell so you get notified anytime I upload. Let's dive into it. Chelsea are doubling down on the project, the vision, the long-term plan, and the people driving it. Our sporting director Paul Winstanley, Laurence Stewart, alongside recruitment chiefs Joe Shield and Sam Jewell, have all signed new contract extension that commits them to the club for the next 6 years. That's right, 6 years. The boardroom isn't changing, the philosophy isn't changing, the plan isn't changing. According to Matt Law, the contract for Paul Winstanley, Stewart, Shield, and Jewell are heavily incentivized based on success, meeting targets, and align with the ownership philosophy of rewarding program. Now that's the key. We are not just handing out big contracts for the sake of it. This is about performance-related rewards. You succeed, you deliver, you meet the targets, you get the recognition. And that is something we as fans can certainly get behind. Let's be real, this director has faced their fair share of criticism since joining. And to be fair, they were criticized for the right reasons. At the start, we are all frustrated at times, questioning the decision, questioning the lack of order signings, wondering if the plan was actually going to work. Yes, as Matt Law puts, Chelsea's strategy of signing elite young players on long-term contracts is on what the club described as a three pillar. These are quality, mentality, and playing experience. And that's important. It's not just about buying young players. It's about buying young players with serious first team experience and the right mentality. They face criticism for not adding older players to our young squad, but the belief inside the club is that playing experience is more important than the age. And honestly, when you think about players like Enzo Fernandez, Kopama, and Joao, you see what that means. In fact, Matt Law gave the perfect example. Chelsea believes summer signing Joao, who is only 19 years old, but also a first team regular for Ajax for 2 seasons and an earned 6 caps for Holland, is an exact example of their strategy. That's the philosophy right there. Hato isn't just potential, he's been doing it at top level already. And it's also worth noting that this leadership group hasn't been just about transfers. According to Matt Law, the leadership team has implemented a number of changes across data, coaching, performance, academy, sport science, medical, and standard. It is anticipated that Chelsea will further strengthen the scouting and data departments over time. That's huge. This isn't short term. This is a foundation of the machine, a sustainable, self-improving model. As Matt Law adds, Chelsea believe they have implemented the foundation of a sustainable model. And while more improvements are planned, the club are optimistic they are on track to compete for the biggest honor over the course of the next decade. Paul Winstanley and Laurence Stewart have been tested. They have been questioned. They have been under microscope. But the club has been impressed that they have not waved from the plan. They have stayed focused on the work even when us fans were losing patience. And while all talks today has been about Chelsea vision and our sporting director signing new deal, here's the latest on Nicolas Jackson. Senior sources at Chelsea has told Leon 20 that Jackson will be reintegrated into Maresca's squad after the deadline if no transfer materializes. Chelsea are not desperate to sell him. That's an important detail. We are not in a position where we have to move him on. This isn't a fire sale. If nobody meets our terms, Jackson stays, Maresca will bring him back into the fold. But here is where things get interesting. According to Fabrizio Romano, Newcastle has spoken to the representative of Nicolas Jackson several times. He would be keen on a move to Newcastle. That's right, Jackson himself will be open to the switch. But that's not all. As Jordan Cunning reports, the prospect of signing Nicolas Jackson divided the Newcastle recruitment team just a few weeks ago. But that stance appeared to have softened. Jackson is emerging as one of the leading candidates to replace Isak, if so. So basically, a few weeks ago, the Newcastle recruitment was not having the idea of signing Nicolas Jackson. But now, if Alexander Isak gets sold, Jackson is suddenly at the top of their list. From our perspective as fans, this is one of those transfer situations that could go right down the wires. On one hand, we just signed Leon Dela, and there is Joao Pedro who can also play centrally. So the squad can adapt. But on the other hand, Maresca still clearly sees a role if the move for Nicolas Jackson don't happen. So the big question now, do Newcastle push this through late in the window, or does Nicolas Jackson stay and fight for his place at Chelsea? Either way, this feels like it's going to be one of those last major stories of our summer. But speaking of major stories, here is the latest on Christopher Nkunku. According to the Atlético, There is now more confident that Christopher Nkunku will depart Chelsea. He's open to a return to RB Leipzig, but also attracting interest from other Bundesliga clubs, plus teams in Italy and the Premier League. Now here is where it really gets spicy. L'Equipe reports that Bayern Munich officials are actively looking for Kingsley Coman's successor, and Nkunku is very popular with Bayern's football director, Max Eber. In fact, 6 months ago, the two already agreed on the idea of a move, but back then Chelsea were demanding 70 million euros. The situation has changed dramatically. The Blues now want 40 to 50 million euros for our former Leipzig star. And that's not all. Atletico says Christopher Nkunku is keen to join Bayern. However, much depends on whether Bayern enters the race for Nick Watamado. A deal for Nkunku and Bayern until deadline day is possible. And this lines up with what Fabrizio is hearing. Nkunku is one of the main names on Bayern shortlist. He's considered the ideal player to cover multiple positions, but as always, the deal depends on the cost. Several clubs have asked about him this summer, so it's still very much an open situation. But here is the part that got everyone talking. Reports are suggesting that the Nkunku situation is tied directly to the pursuit of Xavi Simons. If Nkunku does go, it could potentially open the door financially and tactically for us to land Xavi. From my perspective, this is one of those slide door moments. Nkunku hasn't had the chance to truly explode at Chelsea due to injuries, but the quality is undeniable. Now it comes down to whether the club cashes in or keeps him as part of Maresca's attack for the new season. Either way, with Bayern cycling, Leipzig watching, Xavi Simons' domino looming, the next few days could be massive for both outgoings and incoming. But speaking of incomings, here we go again. Another day, another Xavi Simons update. Fabrizio Romano has made it clear. I'm told that the situation with Xavi Simons is not changing. Chelsea are working on the deal, but there's still no agreement. I can guarantee they are still negotiating for Simons, but they have not agreed. So let's see what is going to happen. We have been hearing about this for weeks. Every day there is a nice piece of the puzzle, but the core message remains the same. Chelsea are on it, but nothing is done yet. Fabrizio adds, remember, if Nkunku leaves, the idea for Chelsea is to try and complete the deal for Xavi Simons. They keep working on it, and negotiations are ongoing. Chelsea are on it. So here it is, the Nkunku domino. If Nkunku moves on, Chelsea will channel all their resources into getting Xavi Simons over the line. And here is where it gets even more intriguing. Fabrizio says, Chelsea remain in active negotiation for Garnacho and Xavi Simons. I think Garnacho 100% happens. For Simons, negotiations are happening, but waiting for Nkunku exit. From my perspective, and I know I'm not alone here, it's getting exhausting. We wake up, we check our feeds, and there is another Xavi Simons update. And it's the same story. Still negotiating, still ongoing, waiting for Nkunku. It's reached the point where we are all saying, get it done or tell us it's over. But clearly the club believe it can be done. And if that means waiting until the Nkunku situation is fully resolved, then that's exactly what we are going to do. So for now, we are stuck in this holding pattern. Garnacho looked nailed on, Simons still hanging in the balance, but make no mistake, if Nkunku goes, Chelsea will go all in for Xavi Simons. But while we are talking about outgoings, another name has been quietly moving in the background, Renato Veiga. According to the Athletic, Renato Veiga will not return to Chelsea first team squad despite Kowi injury and is expected to be sold for a substantial profit this summer. Given the fact that Kowi is out on a long-term injury, some of us thought that this could be a chance for Veiga to slot in as cover, but clearly the club stance is firm. They see him as an asset to cash in, not to integrate. Fabrizio adds that Borussia Dortmund has made an approach to consider a bid for Renato Veiga, but still deem as expensive, as Chelsea only consider a permanent transfer. Now remember, just a few weeks ago, he looked nailed on for Atlético, but that deal collapsed. Then there are links to Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia, but also has completely faded away. And now Dortmund are sniffing around. It's not a full-blown bid yet, but they are testing the waters. The problem, Chelsea's valuation. They paid 12 million for Renato Veiga, but now, after a season of development, they are looking for a substantial profit. And that price tag may be giving Dortmund second thoughts. From my perspective, this is another example of the club buy low, sell high model in action. We identified the talent, we brought him in young, gave him exposure, and now he's a player with serious market value. But the question is, will Dortmund pay up, or will someone else swoop in before the transfer window shuts? Because one thing is certain, Chelsea are not letting him leave on a cheap. So that's the video, my friends. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. As usual, you go be.